right, vinyl fans, we are here for episode 2 of Hazy Vinyl Jive. As you remember, on episode 1, my buddy Dan picked for us a very challenging record for episode 2, and that is the rise and fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. We're going to just talk to, as I've said before, the what this show is about is just me talking with regular people, not music experts, not vinyl experts, just regular people, friends, whoever, acquaintances, talking about vinyl records, what these records mean to them, what they mean to us, talking about what the music is about. And we're still, this format is a little bit different than the last format. In this format, I'm on with my buddy Doug, and we are basically going through the tracks of this incredible album that is incredibly difficult. We could have made a just ridiculously long show just covering this album. So we just we go through the tracks, talk about what they mean to us, and kind of what having a vinyl copy of Ziggy Stardust means, and how cool that is to have that. So, all right, everybody, fasten your seatbelts. Get ready for episode 2 of Hazy Vinyl Jive. Doug, are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right, are you ready to talk about the rise and fall of Ziggy Stardust?
I definitely am.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, on the line with me via the magic of Skype, Doug Knieper. What's up,
How you doing,
man?
Scott?
I'm doing great, dude. Should I say Doug Evel Knieper?
That would be great.
Where did the evil come from? It's E-V-E-L, by the way, right?
Yes, it was just the whole Evel Knieper
Oh, I got you.
thing. And I was actually always the smallest kid in my neighborhood. And so when
So you did not grow up with Mr. David Palin then?
That's correct.
Okay,
he was a few blocks away. Yeah, and so I was always the one getting dared to jump off a jump or just getting pushed off a large hill or stuff like that.
That's so funny. That's so funny, man. Well, we're here to talk about, as you know, on the first edition of Hazy Vinyl Jive, we picked the album for the next show, and Dan picked an incredibly challenging record to try and cover in a show, but we're going to attempt that, and that is the rise and fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, David Bowie's 5th studio album. Just to give a little background for people, David Bowie's canon in general is really difficult to follow, partly because the first 2 albums that he came out with are both titled David Bowie, even though they're completely different records. The second one was then eventually renamed to Space Oddity. And that's where the whole Major Tom thing started, and this whole idea. And one of the things we'll remind people of, Doug, is that at this time, 1972, when Ziggy Stardust came out, we're just going to call it Ziggy Stardust from now on, too, by the way. You don't have to
Thank you.
And you got to remember, in 1972, space, the idea of space and space travel and aliens was huge because of the Apollo missions, right? We're coming up on the 50th anniversary of Apollo 11. And just because of those Apollo landings, the whole idea of space was huge, right? I mean, you and I were like little kids. Do you remember? You probably weren't born for the Apollo 11 landing, were you?
Nope, the next summer, so I missed out on that. But yeah,
I was 2, and I remember my dad waking me up to take me in the living room to watch it on TV.
That's
so there
awesome.
You go. Yeah, I can remember like these hazy black and white images of that. So, but anyways, so the first 2 were David Bowie. Then the third was, of course, The Man Who Sold the World. Many people really liked that album, but none of those had much commercial success. His 4th album follows it up in 1971 with Hunky Dory. Again, did not have great success with Hunky Dory. Many people don't, and Hunky Dory is many people's favorite David Bowie album. It's one of my favorites. What about you, Doug?
Oh, I love it. I mean, I just think it's one of those things people weren't ready for at the time, and as time has gone on, people really appreciate it more.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, and so then right on the heels of Hunky Dory, in fact, before Hunky Dory had even come out yet, I believe they took a 2-week break, and then they started recording Ziggy. So Hunky Dory hadn't even come out yet. They start recording the first songs of Ziggy, which in 1971. They recorded most of the songs and then actually did some of the songs right at the end, like Starman, of course, which we're going to talk about later, came out, and then that was actually released as the first single, even though it was the last song recorded in 1972. So this was his fifth album. So David Bowie did not have this huge stardom yet at all when this record came out, right? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, he was pretty much, I would say, unknown for the most part. I mean, there was a lot of music out there that just, you look back, there were the groups like Zeppelin and stuff like that were just huge. He was not in the same league with them.
Or if he was, or if people did know of him or heard about him, he was kind of considered a one-hit wonder at that point because of Space Oddity, right? And that was it. And it was like, that was it. That was he's done. He doesn't have lasting power or anything like that, and it's over for him. So, of course, then in 1972, Ziggy Stardust comes out and just blows people's minds. I mean, it was just like, I don't. How do you even begin to describe this record, Doug? I mean, any ideas?
Yeah, I don't, because I mean, I know it wasn't written as specifically as a concept album, but it's got enough of a theme that you can just fill in the gaps yourself, make your own story.
Yes.
I mean, starting out with 5 years, you've got just such a wonderful story. I mean, The End of the World's not a wonderful story, but I mean, it's just such brilliant
The
songwriting.
presentation of it is just genius. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think, I think you're completely right. I mean, I know people will say it's a concept album. It's a quasi-concept. It's like it's a concept album without a concept in a lot of ways. And even Bowie himself was quoted as saying things like, what you get, you don't get a continual story from beginning to end on the album, Ziggy. You get glimpses into Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars life. But if you try and read it as a continuous story, you're not going to follow it. That's not what it is. It's these little moments out of their lives that, like you said, and I think that's part of the reason why it's so popular, Doug, is you can create your own narrative to weave these together, and that's what makes it so fascinating for so many people, I think.
Absolutely. I think the room for interpretation from the album as a whole to the individual songs too. I mean, you can have a song that basically just says everything it's supposed to say, and you just get it that first time, and that's fine. But when you have a song that you've listened to 50, 100 times, and you're still thinking about it, and you're like, well, I wonder if this really means what I think it does, or, you go down different paths thinking about this song. I think that's great songwriting. And I mean, to leave a little bit of ambiguity, not to make it just completely vague and just, guess what this is, but to have that just little something there that you can have your own interpretation. I think that's just wonderful.
Yeah, I completely agree. And so just in general, I just want to give like the basic general story so people kind of have, if they haven't heard this record for some reason, I don't know how many of those people are around, but maybe some young listeners. That would be amazing, because that is who this record is written for, in my opinion. But anyways, the general loosely held together concept, like we've talked about, is that the world is going to end in 5 years. And in this chaos, Ziggy Stardust, who is an androgynous space alien, lands and is a symbol of hope. He's almost like a messiah for the Earth's final years. Ziggy decides he kind of manifests as a rock star, soon loses kind of his sanity and even his life to these excesses of stardom that he has as a rock star. And is eventually killed, depending on your interpretation, of course.
Yeah.
Who killed him, who didn't kill him, what happened. And like we said, it's a story that doesn't really take place, and we're just given these glimpses kind of what's going on. Is there anything you would add or take away from that, Doug?
No, I think that's spot on as
Cool.
far as...
Well, before we go, I want to go through the tracks, if that's cool. But before we do that, what version... I know you have a really good story about the first time you heard this on vinyl, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
yes.
hit me with that.
Okay, so, I was only 2 when this came out, so I discovered it in college, like probably most people did, maybe late high school, college. But I was definitely my freshman year in college, and I was talking to a friend of mine. We're just hanging out in the dorms and talking about music, and he was a big Bowie fan. And at that point, I was familiar with Bowie mostly from Let's Dance, which was a huge MTV hit. A lot of those 70s rockers like really hit it big a year or two after MTV came out, and I think he was one of the biggest examples of that with Let's Dance, and that album was just saturated the airwaves. Yes. I mean, every time you listen to a half hour of music, you heard one of the songs from it. So I didn't have that high of opinion of David Bowie. I knew little bits and pieces from songs I'd heard on the radio, but they were out of context from the albums. And there were some songs that I liked, and my friend asked me if I liked any songs, and I mentioned a few, and one of them was Suffragette City. So he, we're in his dorm room. He pulls out an old vinyl copy, and at this point, it's the fall of 1988, and I've kind of already got one strike against David Bowie at this point, and now my friend's trying to convince me to like him, bringing out vinyl, and I love vinyl. But at the time, that would be like someone trying to get you interested in a movie by bringing out a VHS tape.
Right,
and saying,
exactly.
Hey, here, watch this.
You're going to love it.
Yeah. We now appreciate everything with vinyl a lot more, and realize that a lot of those, the digital stuff isn't really that great, quality as far as it's produced. Mm-hmm. Especially like some of the streaming services and stuff like that, you don't get a good quality sound.
Yeah,
sounds like it's like in a tin can.
Uh-huh.
But so anyway, he puts on the album, and I'm listening to 5 Years, and right away the lyrics are just blowing me away. And I also noticed like this first song is not like just a standard verse chorus structured song, and I was just, this is cool. I mean, it's like almost 3 minutes into the song, and there's nothing like a chorus.
Yeah.
And then you start hearing what you think is a chorus, and that just fills the rest of the song. And it was a great way to present that first song, and just kind of lay out the whole, the earth is ending in 5 years. And I think the biggest thing I got from it, that first listen, just from 5 years, was just how much emotion David Bowie had, and by the end of the song, it just keeps building and building. And I mean, it sounds like he's weeping at the end of the song, and I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah, I think
to put that much emotion into a song.
I think 5 years was the hook for a lot of people for this record, right? I mean, I think 5 years is it's just one of the best songs ever written, in my opinion. And I think you hit it right on. I mean, you're like, this is a rock album, and what is this? It's like, is this rock? It is, but it's not what I was expecting at all. But it's brilliant, right? You, at the same time that you recognize it's not really, it's not really jamming out some big heavy guitar chords or anything. At the same time, this is one of the coolest things I've ever heard, right? And yes, you just can't stop listening to it.
That's exactly how I felt. It's I've always liked science fiction, but pretty much the trope is, that something's coming bad to hurt the earth, and we save the day somehow. The asteroid's going to come and blow us up, but we shoot the missiles at it, and everything's good. Right. You get through the end of the song, you go, okay, we're all going to die in 5 years.
We're in trouble.
Let's see what happens here. Yeah,
exactly. So, all right, well, so was that it for you? Like that, you heard that and you were like, oh my God, I got to start buying vinyl.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's cool.
And it's nice, I was in a college town and had a really good used record store, so that really helps. And that record store is still in business 30 years later. I mean, they've been going strong for over 40 years. So a lot of places that catered just to CDs came and went in that town.
Yes.
And it's good to see that the one true one is still there.
Right. Yeah, that is cool. And probably at that time, a vinyl copy of Ziggy was like $5.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It was like nothing
at
probably.
The most.
Right. So, You don't still have that copy though, do you?
I do not. I moved a bunch of times, sold a bunch of stuff, and it's only in the last few years that I've gotten back into vinyl, and I'm glad I have. I got rid of all my CDs, and I still have some files on digital so that I can put them on my my iPod when I'm out walking or whatever. That's the
thing. It's like you don't have to love vinyl at the expense of MP3s and CDs. We all still have those. They have their place, right? They're very convenient. They're easy to share songs. They're easy to listen to in your car or when you're out working in the yard or whatever. So yeah, that all still has its place. But for your pure sit down listening experience, there's nothing like a vinyl listen, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Vinyl's like the Canty breaks of music.
And it forces you to sit and listen, right? You can't jump ahead.
Yes.
Well, I mean, you can jump ahead, but it's not convenient. You sit down, you listen beginning to end. How it was written. That's the way when they wrote it, that's how they wanted you to listen to it, right? So that's the way
Absolutely.
It should be listened to. So, all right.
And I think one of the great things about this, and maybe we can talk about it a little bit later, but just the sequencing of the songs is so wonderful. I mean,
so wait, before we get to that though, what version do you have now? What vinyl copy of this do you have?
Just the regular, it's like the 180 gram.
The Parlophone, vinyl. Is it the Parlophone?
Yes,
the 2000,
I believe so.
Probably the 2006 reissue. I have that one too, and that's like my everyday copy, right?
Yeah, I haven't come across anything older than that. I've been getting a lot of the stuff on Amazon and the record shop that's still there.
Sure. Yeah, because I do have, so my other copy is a vintage copy, a RCA copy from, it's still a reissue. It's from 1977. It is RCA Victor. So it was only about 5 years later. And this was actually, a lot of my collection I got from my dad. This was actually, here's the other cool thing about vinyl, man. This is the actual physical medium that I listened to David Bowie for the very first time on. This physical record. And when I listened to Suffragette City, which is the first song he played for me, it's the needle is traveling through the exact same grooves that it was that day, right? And I'm hearing the exact same thing that I listened to that day, the very first time I listened to David Bowie. So, yeah, that
is really cool. I'd really never thought about it from that because my dad graduated in '63 and he's got a lot of old Beatles albums and we got handed those when he got a new turntable. He didn't think about, I don't know, back in the mid '70s how easy it was to switch a stylus or or if he even knew that was a possibility, but he didn't want to ruin the new needle on his new turntable, so we got all the old Beatles and Rolling Stones stuff,
right?
So that's what I grew up on, and I want to revisit some of those.
So it's just cool that I still have this record, and when I listen to it, like I said, I'm listening. I do the same thing with the song Alice's Restaurant that everyone listens to on Thanksgiving, right? By Arlo Guthrie.
Yes, we do it in our house too.
Yeah, yes. Of course. And so I still have that copy when he first played it for me when I was like 9 years old, right? And when I listen to it now, it's like this, I'm hearing the exact same thing. And you don't get that with an MP3 or a CD, right? It's like, no, this is the one that he and me and my brother sat in the living room and listened to. I'm hearing the exact same thing. So yeah, this gives me that same feeling that does when I listen to it. But so I got those. Those are my two copies on vinyl. I have like 2 or 3 of the different CD versions of this. I mean, my David Bowie count is over. I have almost as many as I have bicycle wheels.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm over 80. If you count every single version as one of everything that I have, I'm over 80, no problem. But but I got to tell you this, Doug. Are you ready?
Yes.
I have a first pressing on its way.
Oh, that is amazing. That is awesome.
I just ordered it yesterday. First pressing of Ziggy, and I am extremely excited to get that.
And what do you do? Is that just like a once a year you listen to it, or
probably yeah? You just like this 1977 version that I have. I basically listen to it very rarely. And that's why I have the 2006 reissue is really good. I think it's good. But I can play that I probably listen to this record once a week. So I don't want to be playing all my vintage copies once a week to do that, because I want to be able to pass these on to somebody someday too. So I have the 2016 version that I can just play and not really worry about it too much. So so that's why I have those. But yeah, I'm pretty excited to listen to that.
Well, congratulations. That is awesome.
All right, well, let's talk about the tracks on this, because we're going to kind of talk about the story a little bit, like you mentioned, and kind of not, depending on what we're talking about. But yeah, we have to start with 5 years, because that's the first track on the album. And like you've said, it talks about the Earth is going to end in 5 years. But so you want to listen to a little bit? Let's listen to a little sound bit of that. Are you ready?
Sure, that sounds good.
News guy wept and told us Earth was really dying. Cried so much his face was wet. Then I knew he was not lying.
Yeah, he's talking about, like you said, the news guy wept and told us Earth was really dying. And the line, cried so much his face was wet, then I knew he was not lying. That to me is that's like we said, that's the brilliance of this kind of writing, is this isn't fake news, right? The guy is actually crying as he delivers this story. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to think of that as the way to just say, hey, this is real.
Right.
This is, brilliant.
And then I got to jump down a little bit. And what my favorite line, or one of my favorite lines in this song, is when he says, I think I saw you in an ice cream parlor, drinking milkshakes cold and long, smiling and waving and looking so fine. Don't think you knew you were in this song. For me, what that portrays is the fact that this is brand new news, right? Because this person sitting in the ice cream parlor doesn't know what's going on yet, right? They're drinking milkshakes, smiling and waving, and then
everything's great.
Yeah, he says, I don't think you knew you were in this song. So by doing that, you get this idea that this has just happened. We are witnessing something that has just happened, right? As we listen to this song, so just brilliant.
Yes.
So all right. So the next track is Soul Love. And so, let's just say too, 5 years kind of presents the problem of, what's going to happen with Ziggy and how is Ziggy going to be influential in what's going to happen. Then we get to Soul Love, which doesn't really, all these songs were written ahead of time. None of them were written with the Ziggy narrative in mind. But Soul Love doesn't really push forward the Ziggy theme at all. It's kind of just like a song by itself. I think, and it's my favorite line in that, and that's love is careless in its choosing. I think he's also beginning, because a lot of this to me is Bowie talking to young people of the time, right, and saying, don't chill out. It's going to be okay. We're all in this together, right? And especially, I think this is a big album with that LGBT kind of crowd and stuff. And when he's saying here is love is careless in his choosing, is that anyone can fall in love. There's no rhyme or reason to it. There's no order, and it's okay, right? So let's calm down about it. So
absolutely. Anything
you like about Soul Love? Sorry.
That's pretty much about the part of the song where I kind of connected and understood it too. He talks about love descends on those, defenseless. Yeah, when you're young and you fall in love, you have no control over that.
Right.
It's happening to you, and yeah.
Yeah, because then right after that, it's like idiot love will spark the fusion, right? It's like you're an idiot. It's you're an idiot when you're in love, right? You're not. It's almost like you're not thinking right? It's so just while it doesn't necessarily push the Ziggy narrative forward, it certainly is a great song on its own, no question about it. So. All right, let's move on to the next song is Moon Age Daydream. And I think it's kind of important. We'll just continue to take these in order because it's we want to kind of talk about the Ziggy narrative as we go. So, all right, Moon Age Daydream. Moon Age Daydream is a lot of people's favorite song on this record. Do you? I mean, it's a great song. It's not my favorite, but that's very interesting. When you ask a lot of people, they'll say this is their favorite tune on this album.
So, with like many good albums, you probably could say, at least with this album for me, pretty much every song on it has been my favorite at one point or another.
Right? Yes, that's awesome.
When Dan mentioned this as the album, in the last podcast, I was thinking, okay, Moon Age Daydream is my favorite song, but I've probably listened maybe 20 or 30 times since then, and I've switched since then. But yes, it definitely has been my favorite at some time.
All right, see, I had never really thought of this as one of my favorite songs on the record, but now going through all this and kind of researching this a little bit, as many times as I've listened to this song never really caught me as much as it has lately. Partly because I started really trying to look at and understand the lyrics a little better. But before I do that, let's listen to a little clip of this. Are you ready?
Yes.
I'm an alligator. I'm a mama, papa coming for you. I'm a space invader. I'll be a rock and rollin' bitch for you.
I think that's just such a great intro to a song, and I don't know if it had any influence on Search and Destroy by Iggy and the Stooges, but like that has such a great I'm a napalm. See, I right off the hand I can't say it, but that's got such a great intro, and it just kind of reminds me of that. And I know this was a year or two before that, and it's just it's.
So one of the things I like here is, I think in this, so for people that don't know, that's the opening of the song right there, right? And to me, I didn't understand this too till some English friends of mine, the second line so he says, I'm an alligator. And the second line has always been translated, and I've always heard it as, I'm a mama, papa coming for you. And that's usually the way I see it written out when you look at lyrics. But they're like, actually, depending on how you listen to it, that could be, I'm a mama popper coming for you. And mama popper is slang for mother effer.
Okay, that makes...
For me, when I hear that, with that in mind, what this is saying to me is Ziggy is not a cool dude, right? He is a bad dude, right? If you think of that, I'm a mother effer coming for you. I'm an alligator. I'm a mother effer coming for you. I'm a space invader. I'll be a rock and rolling bitch for you. I'm coming to, and he's not really a good guy. He's very selfish, and, he's coming for his own, interests as much as anything. So, I don't know. I just thought that put like a whole different spin on this for me. And ever since then, I'm like, that kind of elevated this song into giving me a whole different take on it. And it actually has, like you said, kind of become one of my favorite songs on this now.
Okay, that is wonderful to know, because, the alligator, the space invader, the rock and roll bitch, that all made sense. And just the mama papa just didn't really quite fit in there. But
me too. I was always like, why? What is that? I don't get that. But then when I heard that, I'm like, okay, now it makes the whole thing, that whole verse makes way more sense, and it's even cooler in my mind. So, all right. So we get this groundwork that that Ziggy is coming, right? The Earth is in trouble, and Ziggy's coming, and that kind of is laid out in this song. So, one of the things we wanted to say, Doug, too, I know before we talked about this before, is we could be completely wrong about all our interpretations of everything we're saying, right? We want to put that out there.
Absolutely. I'm no scholar on this matter, but that's what's great about the arts. I mean, you have your opinions, and things are open for interpretation a lot of times.
Exactly. So if people think we're crazy with that's fine, and you can believe. I mean, it can be anything that anybody wants it to be, actually, and that's one of the reasons why it's so good. So. All right, well, that's Moon Age Daydream. Is there any other lines in that you wanted to talk about?
No, but I'm going to just go off on a little bit of a tangent here. One of the first thing that grabbed me with the album when I was listening to it back in the dorm room, back in college, was just the lyrics.
Uh-huh.
But there is just an amazing sonic landscape created by, in this album.
Mm-hmm.
And I first of all, I think it starts with David Bowie's voice, because David Bowie has just a distinct voice. You always know it's David Bowie, but he's not someone like Elvis, where Elvis sounded the same every single song.
Yeah.
He has so much variety in his voice, and he uses that to create a texture. And, between that and just those wonderful bass lines, just kind of smooth, almost jazzy bass lines, and then Mick Ronson's guitars. I mean, just at the beginning of Moon Age Daydream, it's just that nice crunch with those first few chords. And then just ending Moon Age Daydream with just that solo that just fades out.
Freak out.
Yeah, it starts out as just a regular guitar solo, and they start putting some effects on it. And Bowie's talking about the, put your ray gun to my head. I always think of that guitar solo. It starts sounding like just someone shooting little ray guns or something. It just kind of mimics that. It's just amazing.
I mean, and well, that's, I think, in the chorus, and then right before that, he's like, keep your electric eye on me, babe. And I think he's saying, keep the cameras on me. I think the electric eye is the camera, right? He's saying, this is going to be big, right? Keep your cameras on me, because I'm about to make something happen here. And and I think that outro, that freak out, fire, I believe that was Angie Bowie's idea. She actually, when they were working on this song, she kind of had that idea of having that fade out. And to be honest, Angie Bowie, I mean, she was influential in tons of the Ziggy stuff. I mean, she was huge, and right, we're talking about the whole glam rock era, and for people that are like fans of, say, Lady Gaga or anything like that, all that stuff goes back to probably David Bowie and T-Rex. And David Bowie was influential in it as much as always. And Angie was right there. Angie was really pushing that glam rock thing. So I definitely give her credit for that. And if this was her idea, that freak out, that outro part, I also give Bowie credit for being like, yeah, that's good. We're going with that, right? Because that
absolutely
works, and not having too big a head that he couldn't let her have input and go with it. So, just a great song. I mean, I don't know what else you can say about it. So, all right, that is Moon Age Daydream, and that with that beginning, I think, like you said, Doug, that could have been the first track on the album too. Imagine if you drop that needle on that vinyl and that comes on. You'd be like, oh.
That would, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I would be expecting a completely different album if that was the case.
Right, exactly. So, all right. Next on the record was, let's see, after Moon Age Daydream is Starman. So Starman was the last song written, and they wrote it because they felt they wanted they didn't have a single, right? They wanted something that would be good for a single. So the Starman was actually the last song written, and was released as a single before the album, I'm almost positive. And it's just awesome. And do you want to hear a little bit of it? Let's hear a little bit of it right now before we talk more.
That wasn't no DJ, that was Hazy Cosmic Jive. There's a starman waiting.
So just an iconic David Bowie song.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, and I don't know if you listened. Did you hear something in there, Doug? Hang on, wait 1 second. I'm going to play it again. You ready?
That wasn't no DJ, that was Hazy Cosmic Jive. There's a starman waiting.
Did you hear what I'm thinking?
Is it Morse code?
Where he says in there, that weren't no DJ, that was Hazy Cosmic Jive.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I can't believe yeah.
Someone should make
awesome.
a vinyl podcast that's called Hazy Vinyl Jive. Huh.
Absolutely.
So Starman is like, I mean, that was just used in the movie The Martian, right? I mean, I think that was in the soundtrack for that. So, I mean, what else can you say about that? It's a great single, a huge hit. And
I think it's just a great, it's pretty much the most straightforward lyrical song.
Yes.
And that is fine. It is a great song, and they were going to do a Chuck Berry cover in place of this, from what I understand.
Round and Round.
So, yeah, and how would that have fit on the album? I mean, this is the perfect thing to tie everything together, basically. And, and a great song to boot. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, you get in the chorus, you get the line. There's a starman waiting in the sky. He'd like to come and meet us, but he thinks he'd blow our minds. And it's this idea again that Ziggy's out there. He's this messiah kind of guy, but he's not sure how it's going to affect. Let the children lose it. Let all the children boogie, that kind of stuff. So there's like this question of that the spaceman is somehow questioning whether or not he should come to Earth because it might freak people out, right? So, yeah. So there you go. All right, Starman. After Starman, the next track is "It Ain't Easy." So this is another song that doesn't necessarily directly push the Ziggy narrative, I don't think. But to me, the opening verse of this, when you climb to the top of a mountain, look out over the sea, think about the places perhaps where a young man could be, jump back down to the rooftops, look out over the town, think about all the strange things circulating around. I think, to me, what this has always meant to me, and again, people can tell me I'm full of it, is we just had Starman where Ziggy, it's like he thinks he's going to blow everybody's mind, but if you kind of picture it from Ziggy's point of view, he's kind of making this observation of Earth or the things that he's looking out over the rooftops. You jump back down to the rooftops, look out over the town. He's making this observation of Earth and deciding, all right, I'm going to go for it. That's kind of the way I've always thought of this song. So while Space and Spaceman isn't mentioned directly, I always get that kind of feeling for this song. What about you?
I always kind of just let the lyrics be what they are and just not try to put it into the Spaceman narrative. Mm-hmm. And just kind of, I think where this song really fits in on this album is you've got, it closes the first side. Yes. And you've got the songs just kind of build, each one more powerful than the previous one in just intensity to me. I don't know if it's anything I can really, put a finger on, but to me it just that whole side of the album just kind of builds up. And then you reset for side two, and then you kind of start out a little bit mellow, and you do the same thing all the way up through Suffragette City, and then it just kind of Rock and Roll Suicide is just the ending, nice calm ending, the credits, if you will, in a way.
Well, that's interesting, and that's something, like you mentioned, that's something unique to vinyl. You don't get that listening of it on anything other than a record, right? I mean, you could certainly stop the CD at that point and then restart it, but that's not the same thing. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it's basically the intermission for the album. If you're listening to the entire album, it's just that little pause, and it does something, gives you time to reflect.
Yep, absolutely. So that finishes side one. We go on to side two, and we get to Lady Stardust, which in my opinion is one of my favorite songs on the record. And that start, there's a lot of discussion about, is this song about Mark Bolan of T-Rex? I mean, he was the other really big glam rock star at the time. And I believe I heard an interview of someone at the time, or I read someone at the time. This was actually called, the working title for this song was Mark's Song or something. But I don't really think this song is about Mark Bolan at all. I think this is a song is about Ziggy Stardust and people, again, he's going back to it's okay to have questions about sexuality and things like that. That's all okay. You are who you are, and don't let people's teasing and stuff get to you too much, right? Because he starts it out, people stared at the makeup on his face, laughed at his long black hair, his animal grace. And he's kind of talking about this teasing or stuff like that. Any comments?
No, I think you're right on with that. it might not have been strictly about Mark Bolan, but maybe it's what David Bowie hoped Mark Bolan would have been. I mean, because I know they kind of developed
that could be
a
true.
rivalry.
That's a good point. Absolutely, yeah. So, all right, let's hear a little bit of that of Lady Stardust real quick.
Lady Stardust sang songs of darkness and disgrace, and he was all right. The band was all together.
Yeah, and right there where he says, and he was all right, the band was all together. As long as the band was together, he was okay, and everything was going to be okay with him. And the song went on forever, and he was awful nice. I just really like this song. I think it's just a great way to tell people it's okay to be who you are. So
yes, definitely. And it's kind of a timeless song. Some of the other songs with Starman, just going into the chorus, that little that just sounds like that era to me.
Yes,
and
yes.
Which is great because it captures something there, but Lady Stardust just is a timeless song to me. I mean,
yep. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, I agree. It could have come out today and it would be just as relevant. So, if not more relevant. So,
true.
All right, that's Lady Stardust. Moving on. The next song is Star, just called Star. And that Star is the this is a harder one to explain. This is where Ziggy is deciding to be realizing that his way he could influence the world is to be a rock star. And that's, I think, comes out in the chorus where he says, so inviting, so enticing to play the part, I could play a wild mutation as a rock and roll star. And he's realizing, I could do with the money. I'm so wiped out with things as they are. That a rock star is a way to fame and fortune on Earth. And he'll probably be the greatest rock star, which is what he becomes. So that's what I get out of Star. What about you?
Yeah, I think it's basically getting to the realism of if Ziggy came to the Earth, just basically what would his role be. And I think, I don't know, did you ever see the film The Man Who Fell to Earth?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, a little bit different story, but, it was kind of obviously taken from Ziggy Stardust in some ways. But
as have been many things, right? Yeah.
So true.
Okay. All right, cool. No, I was trying to Rocky Horror Picture Show. That's another one that just jumps out at me, right? That's pure Ziggy Stardust right there. So all right. So that was Star. The next tune in order is Hang On to Yourself. So this is about, in my opinion, when he's reached the stardom, one of the signs of stardom is groupies, right? Groupies mean you've made it, and that's a sign of stardom. So to me, this song is about the groupies that are starting to influence and affect and take over Ziggy, where he's starting to lose it, right? So before we go any farther, let's listen to a little bit of "Hang On to Yourself." Yeah, so, she'll come to the show tonight praying to the light machine. That's the light machine is the performance, I think, right? And she's the groupie that he's got, and that I think we hear more about in Suffragette City. And she's infatuated with with what's going on. She's a funky thigh collector, laying on electric dreams, that kind of stuff. This is groupie stuff that he's talking about.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much just, again, kind of going along with Star, just kind of more of that narrative for just what the rock and roll life is like, kind of more of an autobiographical type
for sure
song for pretty much almost anyone in that situation. But
and I think the line too where he says she wants my honey, not my money, it's like he's differentiating. This is not like prostitution, right? This is the different. This is someone who's like infatuated, right, with with what's going on here. It's not somebody that's getting money to do this. So,
well, and there is a distinction between people that are like hanger-oners that want just money from you, and then people that love you for the star that you are,
right? Yeah,
and idolize you. And I think that's where it's kind of going in that direction.
Yes, I would definitely agree with that. So that's "Hang On to Yourself," another great tune. It's just continuing on with as Ziggy slips down into this maybe the abyss. So the next tune is actually titled "Ziggy Stardust." And this song, I think this is the song that is from the point of view of the Spiders, right? They're talking about Ziggy. It's the song we get, the lines we get from this, if you think of them as coming from the Spiders about Ziggy, and kind of where they're at with this whole thing as he's gained fame and fortune and all this stuff, and they're feeling left behind. We're starting to get this kind of Caesar kind of thing, right? Where there's the other powerful guys are starting to turn on Caesar a little bit here, and I think that comes out in this song.
He took it all too far, but boy, could he play guitar. Making love with his ego. Ziggy sucked up into his mind.
So yeah, making love with his ego. He took it all too far, but boy, could he play guitar. And they sing the lines like, "So where were the spiders? While the fly tried to break our balls. They're, just a beer light to guide us. So we bitched about his fans, and should we crush his sweet hands?" I think that's all the band talking about Ziggy. They're wanting to rebel.
Absolutely. I mean, you've got the story of Ziggy, where he is this not so good alien, and pretty much a selfish creature. And then if you look at it from the autobiographical angle, like anyone in a band that becomes the star of that's fronting the band is going to probably get some resentment from some people. And they talk about, so we bitched about his fans, and should we crush his sweet hands. They're a band earlier that everything's all right because the band's together, but at this point, it's just his ego is too much, and they don't really, they're counting on him for their own success, but at the same time, they just can't deal with him being who he is, selfish and all that. So
yep. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think it's them just, they've had enough, kind of making love with his ego. Oh, speaking of that, by the way, the next line after that was just after the one what we just heard is they say "like a leper Messiah," and that's Metallica. That's where Metallica got that from. So people, again, I love when people say, I'm not really into Bowie that much. And you say, well, who do you like? And they say Madonna or Lady Gaga. You're like, I'm sorry, but you are into Bowie then, right? And
exactly.
Even Metallica or something like that, same kind of deal, right? Everything, so much comes back to David Bowie. If you really start to research it, you'll see that this guy influenced as many people. I mean, probably the only person I'd say maybe influenced more people than Bowie is Elvis. I mean, seriously, as an individual, so
yeah.
I mean, he's just everywhere. I was watching. There was a Pat Benatar, not a Pat Benatar. I always get
Deborah Harry.
No, not Deborah Harry.
Okay.
Joan Jett. There's that Joan Jett documentary, and the interviewer asked her a question about something. I can't remember what it was, but her answer is, "Nah, man, we just all wanted to hang around and be David Bowie." I was like, perfect, because it's so true. Everybody back then just wanted to be David Bowie.
And, I think Elvis may have influenced more people, but I think David Bowie was influencing people's creative side more than Elvis did.
I would agree with that, yeah.
Elvis was just such a popular, act that people were inspired by him just to go out and do the same thing as him, not just go off and do their own thing. And
exactly. exactly. All right, so that's Ziggy Stardust. Now, the next tune is probably, maybe, the most well-known song on the album, and that's Suffragette City, would you say? If not, it's close.
Yes.
I mean, maybe Starman.
Yeah,
I'd say Starman and Suffragette City. I still think it's Suffragette City, to be honest.
I do. I honestly think I've heard that more on the radio.
Yeah. Suffragette City basically, I think, is about somebody who's so infatuated with this girl that he's kind of pushing his friends away, right? Is kind of where it is, and the Hey Man is actually the friend trying to get his attention, right? And he's like, get away from me. The girl I'm with is more important, right? So, and we see that over and over through that. One of the lines. Well, let me play the little clip I have from this right now.
No way, hey man, Doogie, don't crash here. There's only room for one. Here she comes, as she comes. Oh, don't lean on me, man, 'cause you can't afford the ticket. Back from Suffragette.
So he's pushing away his friend Henry. And so part of the reason why I really wanted to play that clip is because in there where he says, hey man, hey Droogie, don't crash here. Do you know what Droogie is?
I just saw that today. And in my old age, I've forgotten it was, oh goodness.
From A Clockwork Orange.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah,
yes.
the Droogs were the buddies. That was his buddies, right? Were the Droogs, and A Clockwork Orange was a huge influence on not just this record, but on David Bowie's career in general. And so he's saying, yeah, hey, Droogie, don't crash here. There's only room for one, and here she comes. So yeah, it's basically like the friends are all being pushed away for this infatuation with the girl, and I think you could say the girl is maybe representative of just fame in general, right? Is just kind of taken over, and he's not paying attention to anything else. Is kind of what I get at that point. So,
one of the best lines in rock and roll history, the wham bam thank you ma'am.
Yes, absolutely.
Can't escape that. And I just think it was interesting that Mott the Hoople, David Bowie basically,
saved their career.
Saved it, yeah. Giving them all the young dudes.
Yes.
But he originally offered up this song, and
correct, yeah.
They passed on it. So
yeah, they didn't think it was a hit.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, and as much as I love all the young dudes, I think that's a great song, and it certainly worked out well for them. That song is not Suffragette City. I mean, this was a way bigger song. I agree. It would have been interesting to see what would have happened if they had taken on that song to begin with and done that right from the get-go. That would be very interesting.
Yeah.
So, all right. So that's the second to last album, and then probably, like you said, Doug, I think what my favorite song on this record is kind of changes over time. Right now, Rock and Roll Suicide is my favorite song on this record.
Oh, I can definitely see that.
Yeah. To me, what we get with Rock and Roll Suicide, and I think this is why this album was so popular with young people at the time. This song is about David Bowie saying to David Bowie as Ziggy, as himself, as whoever, saying it's okay to be who you are. You're not alone. I'm here with you, and we're all going to be all right. Just, if you stick with me, I'm here for everybody, and we're gonna be fine, and we're gonna take care of each other.
Yeah, definitely all that, and it's just such a way to kind of tie the album together and just kind of end the album, and you just kind of ease into, it's not an abrupt ending. It's just a nice, it works so well. And
he's ending it with, the last lines of this song, are, give me your hands 'cause you're wonderful, right? You're wonderful. Just give me your hands 'cause you're wonderful. And to me, a few lines before that, he's screaming out at the top of his lungs, You're not alone, right? He gets to the point where no matter what or who you've been, no matter when or where you've seen, all the knives seem to lacerate your brain. I've had my share. I'll help you with the pain. And then he screams, you're not alone, right? Give me your hands because you're wonderful. I mean, try to imagine if you can't see how that would speak to young people in this early 70s, are you kidding me? They're going to hear that and go, this guy gets it. He gets me. And as I've heard a lot of people say, back when I was young and I was listening to David Bowie, I was 100% sure he was singing and talking to me. And this is, I think, where that comes through on this song.
Definitely.
Want to hear a bit?
Yes.
I'm going to play what I just read, I think.
All the knives seem to lacerate your brain. I've had my share. I'll help you with the pain. You're not alone.
So, yeah, I mean, right there, he's like screaming, you're not alone. Give me your hands. You're wonderful. So,
and again, like with 5 years, he really sells it. He's got that emotion in there. And it's just, a lot of people can sing, but if you can't put forth that emotion, I mean, and that's just like above and beyond, most people.
Yes.
I mean, he really means it when he's singing it.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's coming through. He's not just reading through those lyrics. And like most Bowie things, most of the things that made it to Bowie's records were like one or two takes. I mean, they weren't like, he wasn't like this guy that would do take after take after take. He would just get it right the first or second time usually. I mean, and he carried this on through the Berlin trilogy and all that stuff. He only usually did one or two takes of stuff because he knew exactly how he wanted it and what he wanted it to be. And he could get it right away. So just amazing that comes through that quickly in that recording. So just awesome stuff. So. Well, we've gone through all the tracks of Ziggy Stardust there, Doug. I think we kind of accomplished our goal.
Yes, it's awesome.
Is there anything else you want to mention about the album as a whole?
As a whole, I think I pretty much covered everything. It's just I've enjoyed the last month just listening to it those 20 times or so that I've listened to it. And, every time you listen to it, you get something more out of it if you're paying attention.
I agree. Yeah, it's really, really cool. So, all right, Doug. Well, what else? We got to pick a record for the next show. So,
okay.
Do you want to do that?
Yes.
Have you been thinking about it?
I have absolutely been thinking about it, and I wasn't sure if there were going to be any parameters. But before we get to that, and this is off the script here. Not that we have a script, but
yeah, you're implying that there is a script.
Yeah.
The only script is the list of tracks. That's basically it.
I do have an extra sealed copy of Ziggy Stardust, 180-gram vinyl that I would like to give away to a listener.
Oh my God.
So anyone that I'm going to have a few just quick requirements, and this is not a wide angle podium contest. So if anyone has any problems, you can take it out on me. I'm just going to have you, first of all, download and listen to this podcast. If you've already listening, you've probably already done that. Hey, get a friend to do it too. So that would be good. But post on Instagram using the hashtag Hazy Vinyl Jive. Anything vinyl related. You at a record store, you with, listening, showing your turntable and the album, anything like that, anything creative. And I will pick a winner July 27th and mail you that copy. The only stipulation is I really don't want to send to a different country. So U.S. mailing addresses only. Sorry, foreign listeners.
Cool. No, that's totally cool. That's awesome, dude. Thanks for doing that.
No problem. And I will, if you are the winner, I will send you a direct message via Instagram. It'll be under Evel Knieper, so you can expect that if you win. So
you're not being stalked by some guy named Evel Knieper.
Yes, Knieper. Exactly.
Knieper. Well, that's amazing. So post a picture, some vinyl-related picture on Instagram, and just hashtag it Hazy Vinyl Jive. It's that simple. And then when do you think you'll pick a winner?
July 27th.
Okay. All right. Why July 27th?
I know I have that day off, so it'll be something to do on my niece's open house that day later in the day.
I love it.
I know I have time that day to just, if I haven't had a chance to look through everything by then, which I'll probably be checking every day.
Yeah. No, that's
still.
awesome. That's awesome, dude. Thanks, man.
All right. So for the next album,
drum roll.
I'm going for something that I saw you post on the Scott Not Bikes
Instagram feed. Okay.
Feed, yes. And it's not rock and roll, but it's something when I saw it, I definitely have a vinyl copy of this and listened to it that day because I hadn't listened to it on vinyl.
Now I'm intrigued.
Miles Davis, Kind of Blue.
Oh, the quintessential jazz album of all time.
I feel kind of like, I'm picking an easy one, but like we're early in this, and you got to pick the big names.
You got it right. You got to get the heavy hitters in first, so that you can then get on to the more specific stuff. Absolutely. I mean, look at the three we've done so far. Speaking in tongues, Ziggy Stardust, and now Kind of Blue. Yeah, I mean, Kind of Blue is that's one of those. That thing changed music. It certainly changed jazz. It certainly changed music. It put Miles Davis, in my opinion, into the league of people like Beethoven, right? I mean, it's musical genius, and there's no other way you can say anything else about that. But yeah, great pick, dude. We'll definitely hopefully be able to do that justice. That's also a very complicated and deep record, but what a great pick, man.
Thank you.
Now I'm going to have to get a first pressing of that too. I don't have a first pressing, but I have vinyl copies of that for sure. So, and I've heard basically, I think if you want to start a jazz collection, you start there. Maybe Duke Ellington Live at Newport and John Coltrane Love Supreme. If you got those three, you're off to a good start. So there you go. So if you're anyone interested, go out and grab a copy of that. I believe, Doug, that thing still sells something like 50,000 copies a year.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Still to this day. Just insane. Well, all right, man. That was a great pick. Thank you for being on episode 2 of Hazy Vinyl Jive, dude.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, and we'll do it again sometime.
Sounds great.
All right, Doug. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is, as they say, episode 2 of Hazy Vinyl Jive. I hope you dug it. And hey, if you want to be on the show, if you hear us talk or pick the album for the next show, and you think to yourself, hey, I've got something good to say or really cool to say about this record, or even if it's just, that is one of my favorite albums and I want to talk about it, send an email to hazyvinyljive@gmail.com and I'll contact you, and who knows? We'll talk about it a little bit, but maybe you'll be on the show because that's what the show is about. So do that, hazyvinyljive@gmail.com, and you never know. So next time is going to be Kind of Blue by Miles Davis. It should be amazing. We don't know who we're going to have on for that one yet, but I'm sure it's going to be awesome. Thanks again, as always, for listening, everybody. This show is brand new, and it's going to continue to evolve as we continue on here, so that'll be pretty cool. So thanks for being involved early days, and we'll keep making it better. So all right, until next time, keep spinning that vinyl, everybody.